Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst, great Malabite, Emmanuel Efeni.
Good morning, Robert.
Emmanuel.
Yes, welcome back from Anambra.
Thank you.
Yes, you did a good job. You and Ngozi
Alegbu.
Yes, Ngozi Alegbu in handling that debate. You were able to keep the peace. Otherwise, it almost degenerated into something else. But good job. Now let's start the review. Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, sir.
Yes. Good morning, Victoria Tundu, MKO. Aviola, looking very corporate. You have a board meeting?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm glad I looked the part, though.
Now, let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. Now, the lead story, Anambra poll. Capacity to mobilize voters despite security challenges may be the decider. How insecurity, IPOP's threat may undercut chances of parties' candidates. Yes, there is still fear in the air in Anambra as to what will happen on election day, despite the heavy mobilization of security agencies and their assets into Anambra to ensure that the people can vote without any threat. But at the end of the day, what this day newspaper is saying here from findings is that the ability of each candidate to mobilize their supporters to the polls will just be the decider as to who would clinch that election. Now, beyond the popularity of the candidates, the front runners, and their parties, in spite of their war chest, the ability to get the people, their own supporters, to go out there and vote will be the decider. This day is reporting. A big challenge there. Ordinarily, you expect that having campaigned across the length and breadth of the state, people should just turn out and vote for their choice, especially with that well-organized debate among the front runners, which gave the people an opportunity, another opportunity to assess the candidates and what they are bringing to the table to govern the people of Anambra State. Now, if we just move over to another newspaper reporting this story, the New Telegraph newspaper, Anambra Goba, Igbo elders seek demilitarization of Southeast. Demand release of 5,000 detainees, say heavy security build-up, threat to free, fair poll. I don't know whether it will make sense to release 5,000 detainees on the eve of an election like this, because these detainees are suspects. Perhaps they should retool their clamor. 17 parties issue 72-hour ultimatum to INEC. We'll see how the polls will pan out. Now, if we come back to the front page of this day, furious someone who visits Ikoyi buildings collapsing, suspend Lagos State Building Control Agency General Manager, sets up panel of inquiry as death toll climbs to 19. 9 rescued here by this morning. That, I think, has gone to 22, those dead. IGP visits site, humanitarian minister mobilizes NEMA. Bajabiamila, others condole with Lagos government. Another building collapsed in Lagos, yes. While we're still talking about this, another building collapsed yesterday. But it's a major problem in the state. And not just in Lagos State, but for a 21-story building to come down, that in itself is a new high. Because you expect, when you are putting such a building, the best of the professionals in the building construction industry will be there to render the best of services. But of course, we heard so much on this program earlier on where Dr. Larry Tarikoka has been talking about that. Well, he has a book, Housing Policy and the Dynamics of Housing Delivery in Nigeria. And we can see that book, which Dr. Larry Tarikoka has written. He just left a copy with us here, and I'm sure builders, contractors should also read this book and look at the Lagos State as a case study. So I think it's a must read for those who are in the building construction industry. Now, if we just move over to the Guardian newspaper, the lead story, Nigerian Air. Federal government disburses 6.25 billion as consultancy advisors. Budget for 14.7 billion in 3 years. Qatar, Turkish, Ethiopian Airlines identified as technical partners. Stakeholders split over prospects and priority in pandemic twilight of Buhari's government. Yes, according to the Guardian newspaper, the controversial national carrier, Nigerian Air, may see the light of day after all in the twilight of the Buhari administration, because it is now set for the first quarter of 2022. Some may say better late than never. Some may say too late in the day. But this is one project the Buhari administration has been working on for quite some time. The fresh optimism, according to The Guardian, is not unconnected with the recent headway in the search for credible technical partners and financial backings of the federal government year on year. So let's hope the airline will come on stream first quarter of next year, the year 2022. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, Deputy Governor LABSCA differ on why 21 floor tower collapse. Someone who suspends LASBCA GM indefinitely. Death toll rises to 20 as rescue team search for over 45 trapped victims. Owner of building arrested for prosecution. Families beseeching for loved ones. My daughter, 26, a youth corps member, still trapped. Father, Lagos to pay hospital bills of injured victims. LAS BCA, culpable lawyer, Institute of Architects, blames government professional bodies for oversight failure. Obaseki comes raised with Sanwo-Olu, victims' families. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper, the same story as its lead, Ikoyi building collapse, outrage, agony as death toll hits 20, many still trapped. Now, the Daily Sun, insecurity, bandits invasion of Uni Abuja provokes fears, tension in FCT. FCT minister gives security agents marching orders. Kidnapped varsity staff rescued. Attack shows helplessness, failure of Buhari administration. The PDP is saying this is a very worrisome development, but thank goodness and thank the Almighty God that these guys have been rescued, at least, but that bandits can get to Abuja, abduct the professor and students is a very worrisome development. The leadership newspaper, schools beef up security as bandits attack Uni Abuja. Now, the Daily Independent newspaper, workers flay contributory pension scheme. Real accumulated unremitted deductions want defined benefit scheme restated. While the story beneath the photograph, Justice Odile resident. Supreme Court says invasion, impunity taken too far. Sage appeared like mission to kill, maim her. Body of senior advocates of Nigeria confront AGF Malami, demands investigation. We need to get to the roots of that matter. Invasion of the house, the residence of Justice Odile. Now, the foreign newspapers quickly. The Times of UK. Prime Minister hails deal to cut maintain emissions. Leaders agree 30% reduction without China. World leaders have agreed to a deal yesterday to cut emissions of the planet's second most polluting greenhouse gas, as Boris Johnson expressed optimism for success at the Glasgow Change Conference. Yes, 103 countries signed that deal yesterday to reduce methane emissions by 30% by the end of the decade. If fully implemented, the pledge could limit global warming at about 0.2 Celsius by the year 2050. Yes, methane is a byproduct of drilling livestock and landfills that traps about 85 times as much heat as carbon dioxide. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting also that indeed it was the US that proposes a methane cut rules as leaders vow emission cut. President Biden driving the climate change activism, as it were. Ruben Rufai.
As he should.
Yes, as he should.
Yes.
Rufai and Tundu.
Well, I mentioned here a few weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, that Nigeria was one of the countries that signed up to cut their methane emissions. I remember you and I smirking about that because we're having all this back and forth about open grazing and ranching, and then we're making this vow. But the issue is, how will people be brought to account? How will it be measured? How will it be enforced? That's a problem. And with agriculture, not just cattle, I didn't even know this, rice cultivation causes methane emissions with the paddy system. Who knew? But I just want everybody to go beyond empty promises, pledges, to actually give us results.
Well, quickly, I think let's go back to the Anambra issue.
Yep.
The major election that is going to take place in Anambra State this Saturday. It will be a test run, I believe, in many ways, for the 2023 general elections. In that election, INEC has already signaled its resolve to use electronic transmission of results. And, many people will be watching. The other big issue is the one about security. The other big issue is voter apathy and, representation and the issue of legitimacy. But I think it's important that the environment be created for the people to be able to exercise their freedom of choice. Now, it's quite an extraordinary kind of, election. An election that has over 34,000 policemen. An election that is going to attract DIGs, AIGs, 38 commissioners of police, all kinds of security forces, the DSS, the military. It looks like war.
And all the assets they are bringing into bear.
And what this means is that, look, if we're able to pull this off in Anambra, then, of course, going forward, we have to pay more attention to peace and good governance so that, militarization of elections does not become a recurrent pattern or a self-fulfilling prophecy in different parts of Nigeria. The indication, as many international observers would conclude, is that, look, elections are held under the gun, more or less, under the barrel of the gun, and with support from military forces in Nigeria. Democracy is supposed to be a free, open, transparent, fair, where people freely choose their own leaders. That, I think, is the issue. But all the gladiators, 10 of them, 10 out of the 18 gubernatorial candidates, on Monday, they signed a peace accord that they will give peace a chance. And I hope that not just those 10 that signed a peace accord, but all of them will call their supporters to order and rein them in and, make sure that nobody commits any atrocities on their behalf.
Well, people like you, professionals like yourself, you're a regular, average, concerned Nigerian on the streets. Even the Supreme Court has weighed in on the issue of militarization of elections to no avail. You remember what happened in Kogi, and we're about to see, something else, hopefully, not unfold on Saturday. It really is such a huge concern, and there appears to be no end in sight.
Well, we have to find a way to make our democracy more peaceful without militarization of the environment.
And we need to ensure
we have
that
to
people
go. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Efeni.